It is Tuesday, and we are back with the morning drip. I am back with a new hat. My roommate, Matt Leach, just called me Indy, which I think is probably fair. In honesty, this is so I don't have to do my hair, so that I could get this out a little earlier. Anyway, well, obviously, it's Big Ten week. It's a big week for Michigan to prove something. The breaking news is that Rutgers is going to be without its starting cornerback and Max Melton, who has been suspended, which is big news considering that Melton was their leading corner. He has two of the team's three interceptions, one of them which went for a touchdown. Not being at full strength is not going to help that defense. Now, the defense has been very good for Rutgers so far. So, anyway, that is the breaking news. That's not necessarily what we're going to talk about, though. What we are going to talk about is the idea that, and I know this kind of goes along with some of the previous things that we've discussed, but I see this weirdly. Michigan fans seem to be just as we don't like this as much as rival fans. And it's this idea that Michigan hasn't played anybody, which may or may not be true. Like that's one of those things that you won't know until the end of the season when you can tally up these records, right? The big thing is, and I think about this all the time, is you can't change the schedule. Right, the schedule is what it is. It's not Michigan's fault that Washington wasn't any good. At least in the appearance of Washington not being good, rather, because they lost to an FCS team. Team still could be good. I brought this up, I think, last week, that the 2007 Michigan team, which was number 5 in the country at the beginning of the year, obviously lost to App State and then Oregon. People thought that that team was going to be terrible, wasn't going to win, wasn't even going to go to a bowl game. Actually, I don't think that that's what people were thinking then. That's just what people are saying about Washington now. But, I mean, certainly you could feel that could happen, especially when there was the injury to Chad Henne and Ryan Mallett was coming in. That team still beat, 8 teams that year. Lost to Wisconsin. At Wisconsin, lost to Ohio State in a low-scoring game in the rain. I remember I was there. I was in the student section. It was miserable. But and then they ended up beating an Urban Meyer-led Florida team with Tim Tebow and Percy Harvin. So the story of what a team isn't written in the first couple weeks. With that in mind, the story for this Michigan team isn't written, right? This Michigan team could end up being bad. This Michigan team could end up being good. We won't know until they play the games, right? But it's a very good start for a team that did not look good at all last year. And that's what you want. That's what you need, right? That's the important thing. Because when you look at there's a lot of teams out there that get off to torrid starts and you see them rise in the rankings. Like, how good is UCLA? UCLA played LSU, and by the virtue of beating LSU, UCLA was a borderline top 10 team. And obviously, Zach Charbonnet's been really good, but UCLA, lost to Fresno State, and who knows what that team's going to be. You always see it, and Michigan's often been on the other side of things where it is rated really, really high. And then only for you to see it fall down precipitously as the year goes on. However, in years that Michigan enters the season unranked, it tends to be a lot better. And I don't have the stats in front of me. I know Steve D's Michigan podcast had a thread back in the preseason about how Michigan teams that enter seasons unranked tend to be they end up finishing really high in the rankings by the time the season's over. There's something about a Michigan team that feels disrespect. And that's something that we are certainly kind of feeling. They are embracing this underdog status. And we heard it from Mike Morris yesterday. He said, we know that when we lose a game, that people are going to say Michigan sucks again. And whatever little bandwagon there is, people are going to jump right off. So Michigan doesn't get that benefit of the doubt the way that some other teams do. And I know, like, Ohio State is not being thought of as being incredible right now. And certainly it doesn't deserve to be thought that way. But there's still a prevailing feeling that, yeah, Ohio State's still going to be really good. And you see bowl projections and they're still considered to be like a Rose Bowl team, which very well could happen, right? Like I said, seasons aren't built in that first couple weeks. It's just part of it. Ohio State's 2014 team, it lost in week 2 to Virginia Tech, if I'm not mistaken, only to win the national championship that year. So things can change in a hurry, for better or for worse. But obviously, a lot of the hand-wringing is coming from the battle right now for state supremacy. Who's the better team? Is it Michigan or is it Michigan State? Well, we'll know October 30th. There's no point in trying to figure that out now or arguing about it on either side of the coin. And I know Michigan State fans want to sit there and say, hey, we beat 2 ranked teams. All right, well, Northwestern right now is the worst team in the conference. Miami is 1-2, just like Washington. Miami's sole win is against Appalachian State. So, you know, you don't really have a lot to stand on there either. They obviously they play Nebraska. They have some tests, not as many as Michigan, but before that game comes. So certainly come October 30th, that will be proved on the field. But seasons, like I said, are not built in the first couple weeks. It's built over the entire stretch. If Michigan goes 11-1 and the loss is to Ohio State and Ohio State still doesn't look good, that's going to mar what people think of Michigan still, right? So I would relax when I think about what the season expectations are. And kind of like I said yesterday, just enjoy the ride, you know? That's the whole point of a season, is, you know, the season of not knowing exactly what's going to happen. And I know, like, back in the day, and certainly when I was a student, you had this expectation that Michigan was going to win any game that it was in. Certainly you can start to feel that way again, but just know, like, it's they play games for a reason. I say that constantly on the podcast, and I've said it in writing, and, you know, there's a reason why you don't just open up the schedule and say, all right, well, Alabama's won this national championship because it's Alabama and nothing's ever going to change, right? Yeah, last year they won the national championship, but they haven't won every single year. You see times where teams get upset, certainly Ohio State in 2017 and 2018 against Iowa and Purdue, respectively. So they play games for a reason. Michigan obviously lost in 2016 to Iowa. No one anticipated that going in. Well, I know some people did, because I remember having those conversations saying Michigan could lose this game, and I thought it was insane at the time. But they play games for a reason, and it doesn't make any sense to sit and try to figure that out just yet. I mean, even this Rutgers game, even without a starting cornerback in freshman Max Melton, certainly Rutgers could still come out and do some damage. You never know. But we will have a better idea of what we can expect with each passing game, right? If Michigan beats Rutgers, if Michigan beats Wisconsin on the road, then certainly people are going to be feeling like there's things that are a lot better. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is what the team is going to be for the rest of the season. With someone ringing our doorbell and Zuri barking all loudly, that's the perfect time to wrap this up. But that'll do it for today's Morning Drip. We will see you tomorrow, Wednesday, with yet another topic and probably another hat.